All right, good morning. Today I would like to share with you a few thoughts about scaling effective teams. Do I need a clicker to run my presentation, or it's automated? Hello, organizers. Amazing. Thank you very much. Hello again. And one more click. Formal performance reviews, quarterly planning, goal settings. Each one of those can be appalling or appealing. Each one of those techniques may help you go faster, be more effective, or slow you down and be a tedious must. The difference lies in how you go about implementing each one of those practices. Who am I to preach about that? Well, my name is Jakub Dziwisz, and I've been studying software engineering since mid-90s. I spent my time in various companies of various size, in various roles. Oh, now it is visible. And right now, as the CTO of AirHelp, I'm proud to be working with a group of smartest people I ever met, and am responsible for building the most advanced technology that exists in the travel domain. So with all of this experience, did I succeed creating a Garden of Eden in AirHelp? I'm afraid not yet. A few weeks ago, one of our software engineering managers, Sebastian, was discussing inside of his team whether they should split into two. This is a normal thing that happens when a team becomes of a certain size, right? They grow too large to work together effectively, so they need to split. This is normal because AirHelp is growing quickly, growing fast, we are hiring, etc. In the same time, in parallel from the other side of organization, I started hearing rumors. The same day, I started hearing rumors that Sebastian is about to lay off his entire team. Crazy, right? So on the one hand, we are advertising, we are talking a lot about our growth. In the same time, people, in absence of reliable information, start creating rumors. They see that the team is gathered in a meeting, and they are wondering what happens. Well, probably there will be layoffs. So the lesson coming from this is that you need to pay a lot of attention to communication. And I'm talking to all the managers, leaders in this room, but also to every single engineer in this room. Creating an effective team is everyone's responsibility. This is a goal that you guys can achieve if you work together, if we work together as a team. The bigger the team, the more attention you need to pay to communication. And I will be referring to this a lot in the remaining 15 minutes. What is AirHelp? Besides being a great place to learn about scaling effective teams, AirHelp is one of those companies that help people to get money, to get compensation for delayed or canceled claims, for canceled flights. The thing that differentiates us from every single competitor in the market is our pace of growth. We are doubling the amount of claims we are handling every year. And this is a great thing because this means that we can help many more people every single year. However, the consequence is that we are investing a lot in technology. This is technology that powers rapid growth. We can double the amount of claims without doubling the amount of people working in the organization. And this is amazing. However, the more you want to achieve in a given time frame, the bigger team you need. And a big team may be tricky. So Anyone knows what it is? They hear elephant? Yes, this is an elephant. I owe you a banana by our stand. So it's like this with small organizations. You take a single look and you know, yes, I know what kind of animal I'm dealing with. In a large organization, it's not that clear anymore. People, localized people working in different areas of a large organization, probably just like Todd was mentioning about LinkedIn, may start wondering whether projects we are working on are the most important projects that are taking us in the right direction, or maybe not necessarily. So this creates some sort of, to remain in this zoo area, elephant in the room. People in your organization may start wondering whether other groups are working on the most important projects, whether other groups are doing the things that are the most important for the company, whether those guys are smart or maybe not so much. This is the challenge that you get when your team grows above certain size. So how you deal about this, how you can deal with that. MVP, minimum viable product, is a very popular concept in startup world. You build minimum possible solution, you deliver it to the market, you observe how it performs, you collect feedback, and you refine your solution. You build next version, next cycle, deliver, observe how it works. This is obvious for everyone that wants to build a startup. Then, if we do it to build products, some great products that are out there, why don't we do that to build processes that our teams used to be to remain effective? Before we move further, another funny story from my history. A few days ago, there were May holidays, and in order to ensure that everyone has enough time for grilling and chilling, in AirHelp we introduced code freeze. No code goes to production outside of specific cases. I think you've heard about this concept before, right? So during this code freeze, on one Saturday morning, one of our software engineering managers, Rafał, was arguing with our DevOps engineers, Jacek, whether a release should happen. Rafał was saying, hey, we need to deploy this code to production because with this code, we'll be able to help more passengers. Jacek was saying, hey, if we deploy this code, then other services may go down, so maybe we should back off. This is great that we have people that care. This is great that this conversation occurred, but it's not great that it took 3 hours for those guys to agree whether they should proceed with the release or not. But this is what will happen if priorities are not clear, if impact of projects is not clear. So again, clarity of communication, establishing goals before we start doing certain things. So how do you eat this elephant? Architecture, promotions and hierarchy, goals, culture, all of this can get blurry in a large organization. How do you eat the elephant? As the saying goes, one bite at a time. So let's take a quick look at evolution that took place at AirHelp in those 4 areas, and maybe a pattern will emerge. Architecture. In a small organization, you probably don't need to have an architect. You probably don't need to have a lot of processes. In AirHelp, it was just fine to gather everyone on a single call, all regular and senior engineers on one call, discussing new stories being worked on in a given sprint. Every 2 weeks, one call, and we are all on the same page. Beautiful. As we grew a little bit, that call would be taking 2, 5, 7 hours, too long. every 2 weeks, for sure too long, right? So we appointed a group of senior engineers that should be following all the projects that were happening in the company and were able to advise on a direction, advise on architecture that those projects should be implementing. This worked only for a certain size. Once we grew again, the amount of projects was too big for those engineers, advisory board. The amount of projects was too big to be able to follow. So we insisted on mandatory kickoffs, meetings that happen before a project starts running. A meeting in which engineers inform everyone about the architecture, about the impact, and then they collect feedback and can rework certain parts of a project. That's great, but once we grew above 100 people, the amount of sheer kickoff invitations is too big for everyone to read, everyone to follow, everyone to understand what that means. So we are focusing more and more on quarterly planning, identifying dependencies upfront, way upfront. And then, of course, kickoffs are just something that happens, just a formality to share knowledge, but not a meeting that is used to gather feedback, because this happens way before. With promotions and hierarchy, there is a similar story. I really enjoyed working in a small company where everyone knew everyone else, and we didn't need any titles. Everyone was a software engineer, and that was sufficient. Everyone knew everyone else in the company. As AirHelp was growing, the process for giving promotions had to become more complicated. So in the beginning, it was just fine if a manager talks to the CTO and they agree, yes, this guy is a clearly senior engineer, should be promoted. After a certain size, the CTO wasn't able to follow performance of every employee, every engineer, so we were seeking of advice, of guidance of all the managers in AirHelp, because majority of managers knew pretty much everyone in the company, so they could advise. What we observed in 2018, last year, was that with growing amount of engineers, criteria, expectations towards senior engineers are not clear anymore, right? Because if there is just 5 senior engineers, then it's easy to say, okay, I need to have those skills to be called a senior engineer in this organization. When you have 20 senior engineers, their skills are obviously different. So we wrote down expectations, we wrote down some rules, that some levels that people need to have in order to get promoted. In 2019, right now, we are already growing out of this process. We are seeing that rarely any manager knows all the other engineers in the team, so they cannot give good advice. So maybe we'll have to follow Google's way and form promotional committee or something. I don't know what we'll do yet, but we'll have to do something. For the sake of time, let's skip this slide. If you are really curious about the third funny situation, you can find me at our booth in the hall. Let's move to goal settings. Again, in a small team, it's perfectly fine to work on sprint goals and on a sprint level. As we kept growing, we had to go to higher and higher levels. First following projects, then when there were too many projects, we had to start focusing on rather business impact, some lead metrics that we were following. And then when the number of metrics became too big for a person to follow, we had to focus on quarterly OKRs. We introduced OKRs at all levels. Again, we are taking higher and higher perspective. Culture. Evolution that happened in this area proved to be the most critical for modern AirHelp engineering. And probably this topic deserves a presentation on its own, and maybe next year our HR business partner, Evelina, who was the architect behind this evolution, will give you a talk about this. But before that happens, long story short, in a small organization, the culture exists by itself. It's exemplified by members of the team, by their values, by their way of living. As the group increases, those distinctive values get attenuated by the crowd. And you need a way to remind people why did they join AirHelp, to help our passengers with innovative technology, how they want to work, how we want to work, and more importantly as well, to tell people from outside of our organization why they should join AirHelp, how it is to work here. The next level that we are achieving this year is to use our mission and values to underlie all communication happening in the organization, so it gains additional clarity, because we refer to well-known, expected, and explained terms. I hope that by now, because we've got like 2 minutes remaining, I hope that by now you are seeing a trend. So, small team is like a tribe. If tribe is small enough, it can gather around the same fireplace, and in an evening, they can exchange stories. They can share what happened during the day. Oh, today I hunted a zebra, and this is how you can hunt a zebra. When tribe becomes bigger, and in the evenings it gathers around different fireplaces, then probably you need someone to facilitate that type of conversations. So you need a chief, a shaman that will ask guys by different fireplaces, hey, what happened to you today? Did you found new edible plants? Is there anything that other people gathered by other fireplaces can learn from your experiences? When the tribe grows even farther, one shaman probably cannot do this work, right? So you need to have some rules. Every time you find a new plant, every time you hunt a new animal, you share it with the group. And when you grow even farther, you probably need to start relying on writing. You probably need to start writing down things that happened so that the wisdom doesn't only live in legends and stories, but is something that other members of the tribe can read and learn from it. This is exactly what happened in those 4 examples before. And that's it, guys. Before we part our ways, a few closing thoughts. So look for signals that you're outgrowing your current process. The bigger the team, the more sophisticated those ways need to become. Don't be afraid to introduce changes. As I mentioned today, AirHelp is evolving, it will continue evolving. No one left the company complaining about too many changes, but there were some people that left the company because I was reluctant to introduce certain changes when even getting clear signals that we outgrew our current process. Measure the impact. We are introducing those changes for a reason. We are introducing changes to make the team more effective. So measure what impact on the team those changes have, not only for quantity of work, but also, obviously, for quality of work, like bugs, how they are handled, how happy are people working in your organization, because this is also crucial. Communicate, even over-communicate. Because in the absence of information, rumors start appearing. It's very critical to explain why you are making changes, what problems you are trying to address. Even if it's obvious for me, what problem we are solving by making a certain change. If you remember the picture with elephant and blind people trying to touch it, people in different parts of the organization may not see the same problem. So you need to explain what you are doing. What is the reasoning behind introducing career ladders? Why do we have to have those OKRs on team levels? Yes, in the past, it was pretty fine without it, but now we need those. And the bigger the team, the more attention you need to pay to planning communication. It's not enough anymore to write a single sentence on Slack or send a small email. You need to think about how it will be received, how it will be interpreted, how it will be passed forward. And that's it from my side. Thank you guys very much for your attention.